Welcome. Thank you everyone for joining me. My name is Claire. I'm one of the campaign managers here at Birchal, the equity crowdfunding platform that allows everyday Australians to invest in the brands they love. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Shannon Gilland, who is the founder and inventor and all-round superstar behind Pronto Bottle.
Thanks so much. It's a very glowing introduction. Thanks, Claire.
Well, it's all true. So that, it's all deserved, all true, full of merit. And Shannon, today we're just going to be talking together a little bit about Pronto Bottle and the upcoming investment opportunity for the world's first self-sterilising baby bottle. I know it's been a project you've been working on for a little while, and you've been leaps and bounds since you first started. And yeah, for people attending today, there'll be about a 20-minute business pitch deck presentation about Pronto Bottle and what they've been up to today and where they look to take the company in the future. And then we'll have another sort of 20-30 minutes Q&A. The session will be recorded, so we'll be able to watch it later, and we'll be able to share it around with any friends, colleagues, and other people who have already expressed interest, which is over about 150 so far have expressed interest, which is just fantastic to see for the Pronto Bottle campaign.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's very exciting.
It's super exciting. So Shannon, look, I'll pass it over to you to share your screen and to start taking people who are attending through Pronto Bottle and the opportunity that is on the table.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Claire. So Claire's already given you a beautiful introduction to myself as well. I am the founder of Pronto Bottle, but I'm also the CEO of the company For My Baby. And the whole mission for us during this time has been about providing not only a safer bottle feeding solution for babies worldwide, but at the same time, the intent to free parents' time and hands for more important things, right? But at the moment, the market for baby products, it's 85% of babies globally at the moment, or actually in Australia, receive some form of bottle feeding by the time they're 6 months old. And globally, this is actually sitting somewhere between 72% and sometimes 90%. In Australia, what this means is that 267,000 babies that were born last year received some form of bottle feeding. Now, the reason this is a bit of an issue is that as a bottle feeding mum, I did this process, over 3 years ago now when I had my daughter. I found it very time consuming and cumbersome. And I set about trying to solve this problem for myself. But instead of going through and just developing a product, I actually went out and I interviewed and I surveyed 100 parents. And I did so within cafes and libraries. So I could also not only hear what they were telling me was a problem, but I could also see the issues that they were experiencing as a parent. And I'd simply ask them, how are you traveling with your baby? And the biggest pain points come out for those that were actually doing the bottle feeding process. So the amount of time they had to spend in that bottle preparation process, pulling all those baby bottles apart, washing them or putting them into a dishwasher, then restacking them into a sterilizer, having to pre-boil a whole heap of water to then fill those bottles, and then carrying all of those pre-filled bottles with them, either having it prepped at home or whilst they're out and about. So what we currently see is this, right? There's no other solution on the market. We're stuck with having to deal with multiple bottles. And it means you've got 6 or more bottles to deal with. You've got a sterilizer you have to buy as well. You have to pre-boil water to sterilize that water so it's safe for your baby to drink. And this process currently has to be done at home. So when I was going through and I was interviewing parents, and I sat back one day, I actually thought to myself, would it be possible if you could travel with one bottle? And what if you could actually travel with that bottle empty? Was it even possible? And I set about and actually researched. So I went and I researched everything, every possible device you could think of used for sterilization. And I eventually came across something called UVC light and how it was being used in hospitals, and it was being used in dental surgeries to sterilize surgical equipment. I also found that it was being used in water treatment plants for cities, and also water treatment within homes, so kitchens, etc. And now it's being used in consumer products. And I took that technology and I've basically combined it into a baby bottle. And that's how I've been able to develop the world's first self-sterilizing bottle. So instead of you having to have 5 or 6 bottles now, you can actually have one bottle, and you can just wash that bottle in the morning, you rinse it, you fill it with water, you press the button and you walk away. the best part of this product, right? It only takes about 30 seconds to prepare. You either leave it on your bench top or you throw it in your bag and then you go about your day. And then when the baby's ready to feed, you add your formula, shake, heat, and feed. It's also safer because the idea is that instead of having 6 pre-filled bottles either on your kitchen top or in your nappy bag, you get to the 6th bottle usually, and then it's 12 hours down the track. You've been traveling or it's been sitting around the house for 12 hours. And it's collected germs and bacteria in that time, and then you're feeding it to your baby. The idea with this now is because you're sterilizing directly before a baby feeds, you're reducing the chances of them actually getting exposed to viruses and bacteria. Because it's 1 bottle as well, it's a lot easier to prepare, especially if you've got grandparents looking after your kids as well. And also childcare, like childcare for us, you know, we went through that process with my daughter from about 4 months old. And it was a nightmare. The amount of times I actually had to go back to kinder and drop off another bottle because she'd suddenly wanted an extra feed. It caused stress for us. And I guess it also causes stress for the childcare centres, right? And recently we've just discovered there's a report that's come out as well about the fact of having all of those plastic bottles, filling them with hot water, the increase of microplastics now that is actually occurring to babies when they're drinking from those plastic bottles is quite scary. So through having a glass bottle, not heating the bottle, using UVC light, we're reducing all of those statistics. I'd like to talk about business strategy as well going forward with this product as well. When we were interviewing parents, and also based on industry reports, we were looking at, you know, IBIS, baby bottle and sterilizer industry reports. Although I've got a background in e-commerce, the first thing I would have thought to do was to actually just launch this product online. It's quick and fast to do. But we found that parents, although they do a lot of research online, the first thing they'll actually do is actually go and more likely to purchase at a retail stores. So somewhere like your Big W, Target, Myer, David Jones, pharmacies, your local corner store, and, you know, boutique baby stores. So for us, getting this product into retailers makes a lot of sense for us. The next thing obviously is, you know, including that within an online strategy, and that being our own e-commerce store, things like Amazon as well. And as we go to expand the product out globally, there'll be things like going into the Chinese market through AliExpress or other regions as well. The retailing price that we were looking at for this product, the strategies was around the $75 mark for retailers, and this allows us a good margin of profit and also allows retailers the typical 30 to 40% markup for that product as well. And then the outright purchase for the customers on the other end of that for parents is about $150. But we also didn't want to aim it at, you know, high end or high income earning parents. We also wanted this product to be accessible for as many parents as possible. And what that meant is we've also developed a subscription model for this product with the unit cost being paid straight up, so kind of like a deposit. And then there's a $17 a month charge over the next 12 to 24 months. It not only allows us to aim the product as well at low income earners, but it allows us to also develop, hopefully in future, a circular economy. We'd like to have it so that at the end of that bottle's use, we actually get it shipped back to us, we refurbish it, and then we actually send it out to families that need it locally or out through third-party charities to be able to give that out and give it a second life as well. The milestones we've achieved so far, I'm actually surprised. It was nice to do these slides because I had a look, and sometimes when you're a startup doing these things, you don't feel like you've gotten anywhere, but when you actually look at it on paper, it looks, you start to see that you've actually gotten a fair way down the track with it. So we took this idea from concept to its first prototype in June last year, and it was a non-functional prototype, but that actually allowed us to get it into parents' hands, and we were actually testing the product really early to get feedback on its design and whether or not it was actually helping parents. We then actually wound up in getting access to and being accepted into one of Australia's premium medtech acceleration programs called MedTech Actuator. And we also raised our first round of external funding through that program as well, through Artesian, a VC firm backing that program. I was then accepted into a second acceleration program, and this one I applied for specifically for the Asia market. So it not only allowed me to get insight and feedback into the Asia business space, but also about how we protect our IP going forward if we do go into that space as well. I also wound up raising a second round of funding through that at that time as well. We submitted our patents as well. So we've done our provisional patent before this, submitted our actual PCT patent in February, but that was for our initial design. And then we started working on a board development in April. And this meant that we could fill the skills gaps that I had. So obviously as a founder, I've got a fair amount of skills in different areas, but it's important to ensure that you're bringing on senior people that have done this before, have got a lot of experience, who can help and guide yourself and the company's direction as well, and de-risk it a bit as well. And then, I was lucky enough to raise a third round of funding through Artesian, and the VC firm as well, which was fantastic. And that was in September. Just having the discussion about IP as well, we submitted that, as I mentioned, the provisional patents and the PCT. We submitted the PCT patent for that initial concept that we were working on. Since then, we've tested that initial concept and also done further research on the actual patent landscape, and discovered that that product and that patent most likely won't go through. So we did the design that we're currently working on, not just to improve the product itself, but to improve the protection of the product going into the future. We've trademarked this now in Australia, so Pronto Bottle is officially trademarked in Australia. We've been working on a global brand as well. Branding we found when we were doing our interviews and surveys with customers, as well as through testing online, we found that it was very important for parents to trust a brand. And that meant that we have to put a lot of work behind getting ourselves out there and becoming globally recognized for what we're doing, which is a premium baby product. The next stage is when we complete our design that we're working on now, we'll actually complete a design patent for it. And that'll be in Australia, China, US, Europe. So wherever we decide to launch our product next as well. And there's myself. If you know me, you probably know a fair bit of my background as well. But if you don't, about 10 years ago, I studied bachelor's in animation. And post that, I actually then started a company with my fellow founder, and it was a mobile game development studio. We did that for about 2.5 years, working not only on our own games, but also working on products for clients as well. I then went and worked for the global game studio called Electronic Arts as a project manager on one of their games called The Sims Free Play. While I was doing all of that, also I'd launched my own e-commerce store. So I'd imported a product from the US and actually started selling that, and did my own branding and marketing and everything for that. So that was an interesting journey as well. So I did that for probably about 5 years while I was doing all of that work. And then I went and studied entrepreneurship and innovation, and I had my daughter, and that kind of leads to where I am now. It's a bit of a varied background, but all of those skills in terms of the animation and 3D skills I've used to design the initial concepts of this product. But then the e-commerce experience I've put to developing strategies for the business, as well as the project management experience and the business experience, actually, launching a couple of companies, has helped me get to where I am today with this product as well. Now, we were talking before about branding as well, and how important it is for us in terms of our IP protection, but also building that trust with our customers. So we've gone and hired a company called Brand Opus. They're a global company, and I've been working directly with Nikki on helping us create a brand that speaks to our consumers. Branding at the moment doesn't tend to do that very well. It's quite outdated, and it was important for us to work with somebody that was very skilled in this area. Then working with actually developing our product. So like I said, I did the initial designs for this, but it was obviously important to bring on somebody that had a lot of experience in terms of working on consumer products, consumer electronics, working within UVC light as well, and building a product that was a quality product. Again, it was important for our consumers and our parents, but for us as well and our brand values. So bringing on a team like Boost Design and Michael, they've got 25 plus years within the space, which is fantastic. So we've been working with them now, I think just over a year on the product development so far. And also the IP, further protection for our product, we've been working with Fee from Girl Friday IP. She's been fantastic in terms of not only helping us launch and follow up our trademarks and our patents, but also staging out that process as well. I'm sure if you've got any experience within this area, you'll understand that doing patents and trademarks is a very, very expensive process. And being able to protect our IP at the stages where we're at without sort of running out of money was really important. So Fee's been able to help us do the things we could at the stages we could, and has also developed a future strategy for us as well, with the new product we have and in going into the future with the next lot of products too. Sales, we mentioned about getting our product into retailers. The important part of this is that I have no sales experience, so bringing on Christian and his team at Thrive Collective again was important. Christian's actually got a lot of experience in connections already within the pharmacy, large chain retailers, and within the baby stores as well. So having him and the team on board will help us get into those retailers a lot faster than if I was trying to do that process myself. And then Remco as well. So I did study a portion of finance in my entrepreneurship and innovation studies, but Remco has been integral in terms of ensuring that we are doing the right thing in terms of our budgets and our forecasting and our expectancies in terms of where we're going in the next 2 to 3 years. And he's officially been taken on board now as our virtual chief financial officer. I think I mentioned before about having board members on. So we've brought on Nai Deakian and Matthew Hoskin. Now, Matthew's actually got over 25 years of experience in healthcare, medtech, and biotech sectors. He's worked on everything from startups to teams within large corporate companies, teams like Siemens Medical. He's also taken products from research stages through to prototype product development, and eventually getting them to global market launch as well. And Nari's experiences in marketing strategy, customer, and market insight and innovation planning. Now, she's been working closely with boards and management teams for a number of years as well, and mostly within the consumer life sciences and medtech space. She generally tends to work on de-risking their investments and innovations as well, which is fantastic. And she's worked within the innovation, growth strategy, and consultancy practices. And she's worked for a couple of large companies too. So she's worked for Kraft Foods, Nabisco, and Uncle Toby's. So I think we've got a really good, solid base for what we're trying to do. And this will help us develop our future business goals and strategies as well. Slides. The next stages for us will actually be to complete this latest prototype. And this will include us actually putting it into labs to test it to ensure it actually functions. So it's actually killing viruses and bacteria, or germs and bacteria. And the next stage then is, again, going back to our fellow parents, testing it and seeing and making sure that it functions as they're expecting it to function, that we're not making it more difficult for them than it currently is. We're actually making it a lot easier and safer. And then also getting it out to key opinion leaders. So people who review this type of product, but also people who are within the medical field. So nurses and healthcare professionals that would generally be the first point of contact for our customers or our parents when they become new parents. Then, like I mentioned before about that global branding strategy, we're halfway through that set of work with the brand company, helping us develop and launch that new brand and ensuring that we're actually messaging our product properly and messaging ourselves and our values to a customer base that actually connect with us is really important. So that's the next set of work we've got to do. Manufacturing, so we'll actually be doing the tooling overseas, which unfortunately nowadays tends to be the way it happens. But then we're actually going to bring that tooling to Australia, and the intent is to actually manufacture this product in Australia. And what that allows us to do is not only create a quality product, but we'll have more control over the quality of that product, but also the environmental impacts of manufacturing locally, ensuring that our footprint globally is a lot less than manufacturing overseas, having product shipped here and then shipped out again. So it makes a lot more sense. And then obviously doing our QMS and certifications from there. And then, like I mentioned, the next thing would be for us to complete that IP protection as well. So the next stage is the IP protection that we're intending to do for the product. And then distribution, the exciting part, getting to the part where we actually get it out into customers' hands. It's a stage I've been looking forward to for a long time. So through those channels that we mentioned with the sales company, into the retailers, into companies like Big W, into pharmacies as well as boutique baby stores too, and online, which will be fantastic. So this kind of brings us to today, and the reasons why we were doing the Birchal campaign was so that we not only got to launch a product that spoke to customers, but to get those customers involved as well. People that really cared about the problem, people who have experienced it before, but also investors that understood the size of the market, the thing that we're trying to do, and what the potential is for this product and the company going forward as well. And that opportunity is the raise is about 850 that we're looking to raise. And that's at $1.91 per share price. And that will allow us to complete that manufacturing that we want to do, to be able to develop a product that is quality, that speaks to our customer, that builds trust, get our product into those sales channels, develop our marketing strategies to be able to get the product to those customers, and obviously distribution, ensuring that we're making it as easy as possible for our customers to gain access to our product as well. That's it. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. The last thing I'll actually ask as well is, I think I've been asking this the whole time, but get onto our socials, get the conversation going, ask me questions. I'm here the whole time. I'm pretty much an open book. So feel free to ask me a question about the company or myself or how I got here. Future plans as well. Absolutely. I look forward to having these conversations with you. Thank you. So thank you so much. Yeah, open up and let's get the questions going.
Fantastic. So for anyone that's got a question for Shannon, please use our Q&A button down the bottom of the screen. But I might kick us off while you're thinking about your questions. And Shannon, can you tell me a bit more about the challenges in this space?
There's a number of challenges. So developing a hardware product in general is very, very difficult for a number of reasons. I mean, it kind of makes sense straight away, right? You're building a physical product. So the lead time is a lot longer than building something like a SaaS product. It takes you a bit longer to test your product. But there's issues also around trying to find funding for it as well. So it's very difficult to raise funding for early stage, which is what we're at now, for a hardware product, because generally the things that investors will ask you are tick box questions like, have you got traction? And have you got letters of intent? And have you got distribution deals signed? And these are all things that tend to come at later stages when you're in that, growth and expansion stage of being a startup as well. So for us, it's been difficult to raise those funds. So being lucky enough, over the last 18 months to have not only gained access and completed 2 acceleration programs, but to also gain 3 rounds of funding to get us to where we are is pretty amazing, right? And we've managed in that time as well to test the whole time with our customers. So we did that initial surveys with our customers, and every time we've actually done a design iteration, I would take something as simple as a Voss bottle to a group of parents and go, if it did this and you did this with it, how would it make you feel, and what would you do? Does it make it easier or more difficult? So we've been testing that whole time with our product, but unfortunately investors tend to want to look at hard numbers. Have you got the traction? It's hard to prove traction when you're coming to them for the intent of investment so that you can prove that traction to them. So yeah, it's been a very, very difficult journey so far.
And of the funding that you've raised from Artesian so far, approximately how much has the company raised to date, and what have those funding mainly gone into?
Great question. The funding we've raised to date is actually 250,000. And the first portion of that wasn't even through VC. So we actually went through and raised that first form of funding through friends and family. So that allowed us to do the initial design work, the initial testing. So we actually set up the website, got somebody to do some basic branding. We actually did some advertising as well. So we actually did traction testing in the early days with a fake website, just to see if it was an idea that would grab parents' attention. And doing so, we kind of set up the fake buy button, that kind of thing. So we could straight away work out whether one, customers were interested, how long did it take us to pull them through into a sale, how much that sale cost us. So we got a lot of data out of that, which was fantastic. And the next steps for them was the 3 rounds of funding we got through Artesian. So we've raised 200,000 through our 3 separate raises through Artesian. And that was, most of that development cost actually went to us doing the next stages of prototyping and product development. So that's a very, very expensive process. A fair portion of that as well was towards all the legal fees in terms of trademarking and patents and filing and searching and legal paperwork, actually getting into the acceleration programs. There's a lot of paperwork associated with that as well. And also the marketing. So we rebranded ourselves, did further testing online, tested it again with users, did our prototyping. And yeah, that's kind of got us to where we are today. We still have a portion of funds aside. We haven't spent all of that. Yeah, so that's how we've spent it, and that's how we got it.
So in terms of going into the accelerator, like the MedTech Actuator program and these other accelerators, is Pronto Bottle considered to be a MedTech product? And are you restricted or subject to some of the really rigorous testing procedures that come from MedTech product? Or is it more of a retail consumer product where you are free of those sort of testings?
It's interesting. It could straddle the two. Like, I wish I had a straightforward answer for this. So we got into MedTech, I think mainly because it was a consumer health product, so consumer health, and then the fact we were using UVC light and sterilization, right? So that's why I think we were able to gain access into that acceleration program. In terms of restrictions, we originally thought that we would have to be Class 1 certified, which is a medical certification, so a TGA certification. And that means that it's a 4-month process with some basic paperwork to get yourself certified so that we could use the terminology sterilization, because there's strict rulings around whether or not you can use the term sterile and whether or not you can actually make claims to killing viruses and bacteria, that kind of thing. What I've recently found out is that we're not actually needing to do that process, which is fantastic. We actually went directly to the TGA. We got some direct feedback about the product and what we're trying to do with it, and they don't consider it a medical device, and therefore we're allowed to use the term sterilization, and we're not required to do the TGA Cert 1 classification. We will need to do all the QMS, obviously, quality management systems, which ensures that we make the product as intended, that it's safe, that it's the product elements are actually going to last and survive as long as we say they will. And obviously that's really important in terms of the fact that we're building a product that people are feeding their babies with, Yeah. I do think I just saw a question pop up as well, Claire.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool. So Peter just asked the question, have you shown product to any major retailer and feedback? No, I haven't shown the product to any major retailer for feedback yet. I was cautious to do so because when we had that non-functional prototype, we didn't have our patents in place yet. So we only got those patents in place in February, like I mentioned. And then from that point, February, COVID hit. So I couldn't actually send the product to anybody. So it's been a really awkward time as well. So trying to raise the last 8 months and actually getting to speak to retailers face to face, because we've only got one prototype as well, because they're darn expensive. So we haven't actually been able to get them in their hands to actually give us feedback. But it was definitely the next stage for us, was to get them to give us feedback on what their thoughts are, because obviously they've got experience in terms of what sells for them. And they also understand their customer as well. What are they coming in and asking for? What features are they asking for? So definitely was on the plan, but COVID threw a spanner in the works.
As I
Great pleasure. Yeah.
Almost every business, across the board.
Absolutely.
I had a question for your raise amount. So you've said on the slide that you're interested in $850,000 in terms of a raise. When it comes to these sort of crowdfunding rounds, there is always a range. There's always a minimum target and a maximum target that companies are going for. So in the roadmap that you've stepped out, what is the absolute minimum target that Pronto Bottle would be looking to raise, and what would you be able to do with those funds? And is $850,000 the maximum you're looking to raise at this time, or how does that work in terms of intense expansion and less intense expansion?
Yeah, sure. The minimum amount that we're looking to raise is 175K, and the 175 will allow us to finish that next stage of prototyping. It'll allow us to put it into labs to actually get that product tested. it'll actually allow us to do multiple prototypes. So again, like I mentioned, prototypes are non-expensive. So we'll be able to develop about, between 6 to 10 prototypes from that. And then we can test it. We can actually do what Peter suggested as well. What we're going to do is actually get that into retailers, get feedback from retailers, as well as feedback from people within the med space. So the nurses, lactation consultants, people that are sort of, first contact for parents within the space as well. And then the remainder of that, so that won't get us to launch though. That's the short answer. What that will do is allow us to test, to have more proof in our hands, most likely to be able to get letters of intent. So the idea with that process is we'll be able to get retailers to sign up and say, we love it, we would like X amount. And then with that, we can take that to investors and raise that remainder amount. So if we only raise 175, we would seek to go then to sophisticated investors and raise the remainder of that, which will allow us to do the tooling, manufacturing, the completion of patents and trademarking that we need to do, and then that final distribution portion as well. Yeah.
Incredible.
And I think Peter's just popped up with another question as well.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, do you mind if I jump in?
Yeah, I do.
Peter's just asked, how long does it last? How many usages? Roughly till what age group? Ah, fantastic, great. So the technical answer to this is it lasts as long as the UVC light lasts, which is 10,000 lamp hours. But the idea is that we've worked out that'll last a minimum of 2 years, so a maximum of 10 years. What this is for us then is that we would require parents to send it back to us. Again, we refurbish it, or we've actually got an indication on the bottle as well. It says the lamp life is running out, and we can return or ship out a new lamp to you as well. So the actual unit that has the lamp in it, which is fantastic, which is good. I think, and what age group? The age group's reliant on the teat. So this initial launch of the product will be for babies from 0 all the way up to 12 months. And then we're actually doing other add-ons, which is, the sippy cup implements, which is, the next stage for kids. And you can do, pop-top kind of things when they get into going into kinder later on, when they're 3 and 4 as well. So it lasts, up to 4 or 5 years. And again, like I said, refurbished, send it back, and then send it out again. So yeah, which is good.
And are there many competitors in this space with the sterilisation of, I mean, obviously not just baby bottles, but bottles in general? And I know you've got a few IP patents protections in place, but yeah, what's your thought around competitors and coming into this market?
Yeah, sure. Specifically within the baby bottle space, there's a lot of competitors, right? So this market's existed for a long time. There's big players and small players. The problem with this is that they all compete on that multi-bottle system. So you have to have your 6 bottles, you have to have your external sterilizer, and that could be steam, or it could be a UV sterilizer cabinet. So there's products that exist that are these big sterilization cabinets that sit on your countertop, or there's like little sterilizer, I don't know what you call it, kind of like a canister that you've put a single empty bottle into. The issue with these is that, again, you have to either sterilize at home, or the technical issues around the sterilization canisters that we see coming out from foreign markets don't sterilize, to be honest, because they're not powered at the correct wavelength. They're not powered by the correct wattage, and they don't state the correct timings that you actually need for those bottles. So it means that you basically don't have a properly sterilized bottle. They also don't take into account the material factors of a bottle. You put a glass bottle into that product, UVC light doesn't actually penetrate through glass. So you're sterilizing the outside of it, but you're not actually sterilizing the inside. And the same thing for plastic. Plastic contains UVC or UV stabilizers. So if you've got a UVC light, it prevents, again, most of the light getting into the internals of the bottle, and you're externally sterilizing, but again, you're not doing it properly. So the fact that we've got this sterilizing within the bottle, directly close to the water and to the teat as well, it means that we've got a product that doesn't exist, basically. It's the first product on the market that you can actually sterilize while you're out, and it sterilizes the water. So nothing actually exists on the market that allows you to sterilize water within the bottle for the baby. There is actually, mind you, having said that, there is a product, if you look, there's a product called Lark which is a drink bottle for adults. So, like a sports drink bottle that you can actually sterilize a stinky bottle or sterilize the water if you're traveling. But that doesn't exist in the baby space right now. Nothing exists to sterilize the water and the teat and the bottle at the same time, if that makes sense.
And I know that you ran a crowdfunding campaign a little bit earlier last year. And it's incredible to think that this business really has only been around since June 2019. So, yeah, better year of to the business, and you've achieved so much in this time.
Yes.
I remember you were mentioning to me on a chat that we had that one of the things about the crowdfunding campaign is that there was a bit of a timeline until you'd actually get the bottle manufactured and into the hands of consumers, which makes it really hard for those sort of Kickstarter style campaigns. Ideally, and I know this is all due to funding, testing, lots of other things that are going to be influencing this, but when would you hope to have the first product in market? What's your goal and your dream?
My goal and my dream would have been short to have had it now, but that hasn't been the case. And then also like the whole COVID thing, like I said before, we had initially planned to launch this product by, was it August, September next year? But we've had to push that timeline out now by 3 to 4 months. And depending on how much we raise in here. So if we manage to raise in this round in its entirety, the 850, we look to launch by December next year. If that process takes, an extra 2 or 3 months, that will get pushed out by 2 or 3 months. So, yeah.
Incredible. And there's been a question.
Was there another question I missed? I feel like you asked me 2 questions and I've forgotten one.
No, it was more so around, when you thought the bottle might be in market, which I think links into a question that has come through about what time frame are you expecting to get to the stage that you have prototypes manufactured and testing of the prototypes completed. So I know that potentially market December next year, or if funding's an issue, it'll be a little bit later. But to the end of that prototype phase, because there's always a gap between prototype and market. When are you thinking try and have your prototypes complete?
The prototyping stage we're hoping to have completed by January next year. Obviously, we're coming into Christmas now, so this revolves around us actually being able to manufacture the prototype that generally tends to be done overseas and again brought locally, even though we're working with the local development team. So we imagine that process to be done and completed by January next year, sorry. God, we're already in October. So January next year, user tested, lab tested, and ideally manufacturing by March, April. Yeah.
Incredible.
I wish I had a more solid answer, but that's generally the rough of it,
Yeah, but I mean, it's, as you sort of mentioned, COVID funding, there are a few different elements that come into play when it comes to prototyping, getting a product into market. But, for me, that answer was pretty satisfactory. I'm interested in a bit of the investment side of the deal as well. So obviously, look, people that are investing into this interested in the return on investment, and the opportunities of this product. So roughly how many units do you think you need to have in the market to break even? And then my question after that would be, for Pronto Bottle, ideally sort of an exit opportunity, or what are your initial thoughts on exit? I know that's a very long way away because you want to get the product into market first with more funding, but your vision for this business in the next 10 years, where do you see it going?
We see this getting, ideally, we see ourselves getting acquired. So an acquisition by an existing company within the space. It makes the greatest amount of sense considering the product that we're developing, the brand that we're developing, and the future product development pipeline as well. This makes sense to larger companies because they're obviously working on other things, and to get somebody in who is smaller, more agile, and is doing the development that is a lot quicker than a larger company can do. There's a lot more funds, obviously, but ideally that's where we see ourselves getting to, is the point of where Pronto and For My Baby is actually acquired by a bigger company. In terms of the question of break-even cost as well, I'll go back to that one. Looking at the projections that we have at the moment, we're looking at having ourselves breaking even within, the 4 to 5 month mark, as in our expenditures being paid for by the sales of what we have within the company. We won't be turning a profit yet, but we'll be breaking even essentially. Yeah.
Awesome. And
did that answer your question? Was that the only 2 questions you had?
Those are my 2. I've got one more, and then I'll pass it back to the investors that have joined the session. And if not, wrap up the session nice and early. With equity crowdfunding and most crowdfunding campaigns, in the way that we do it, not only will people be buying shares in Pronto Bottle, or For My Baby is what they're buying shares in, but there's also an opportunity for rewards for the investment as well, knowing that, the return on investment opportunities maybe, a little bit further down the track. There's the short-term rewards that you'll be offering to investors. Have you had any thoughts about, the perks that people will be receiving for getting involved in Pronto at this early stage?
Such a difficult one, because now I'm going to disappoint anybody that was thinking that they were going to invest and get a reward. We thought long and hard about this, right? So we did the crowdfunding last year, and the idea then was somebody was paying and getting a bottle in return. That was the whole idea of our crowdfunding last year. And we found out that ideally when people decide to bottle feed, it's now that they need that bottle, not in 9 months' time when we finish manufacturing. So the perks for us, the first thing we would have thought of is, yes, of course, people are going to want a bottle. That makes total sense for us to give them one. But ideally, the stage we're at, because we're a startup, because every single cent makes a difference to us right now, us sending out product at the stage, if we send you out a $45 reward or a $50 reward, that's money that I could be spending on product development. That's money I could be spending on lab testing. It's money I could be spending on IP. So it's going to sound stingy, but I hope that the investors will understand that at this stage, there won't be any rewards. But in future, obviously, we intend that once we're launching this, that there's some way that we can actually reward them beyond, the actual interest that they're earning on the shares at the same time. So I wish there was a nicer, reward to kind of give customers and investors, but I hope they understand the reasons that we haven't done so is purely to put all of that funding into what we're trying to do and actually develop a product that makes it, that launches, that, gets people interested in it. So, yeah. Sorry, Claire. I'm sorry, investors.
We have much stingy people that don't put up rewards with absolutely no rationale as to why. I really appreciate you being very honest and candid about why not. And I think, every cent counts, as you say. So I'm sure all investors will understand that as well.
Yeah, I hope so.
If we don't have any more questions from investors in the audience, speak now, forever hold your peace. But Shannon, is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with today?
Just to thank you. I think, obviously we're asking a lot of people to come on board at an early stage as well. I hope that today you've seen that we've done a lot in the last 18 months to, fill the knowledge gaps that we had, to protect the product as much as we could, to develop and test the product to ensure that we were making a product that actually was solving a problem for customers. And I just thank you for wanting to be a part of that journey and get involved with the conversation and ask me a question anytime. Give me a call, send me an email. I don't mind. Yeah, I look forward to actually having more people involved in this, and just the journey further and finally seeing the product in somebody's hands. I can't wait to see a parent. I'm looking forward to that day I actually see a parent with this in their hands. I'm so excited. Oh dear.
My sister-in-law is expecting, actually, and I know she said to me that she's thinking about bottle feeding so she can get back to work nice and early. And I was like, that's a thing for you when it's all manufactured and in the market.
Awesome. Well, that's what I need all our investors to do as well. Just keep telling their friends that. I've got this great idea for you.
So, after watching today, if you haven't yet expressed interest in Pronto Bottle and the investment opportunity, I highly encourage you to do so. Expressing interest is not obligatory, but what it does mean is that you go on the list to be one of the first to see the offer documents and terms, and also get access to the exclusive private phase, where if you invest in that private phase, you will actually delay the payment of your investment offer before we go back out to the public and advertise it widely to parents all over the shop that would be interested to get involved in this journey as well. But if you've already expressed interest, it is open for another 2.5 weeks, I believe, the campaign. So please share it with your friends, colleagues, networks, anyone that you think would think this idea is a fantastic idea, which it is. And yeah, thank you so much again for joining us today. Shannon, thanks as well. And as I said, this has been recorded, so we'll pass out a recording to you afterwards. But yeah, I hope everyone enjoys, especially Melbourne, your long weekend ahead, and have an excellent day.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Claire. Thank you, everybody, as well. Thanks for joining.